My name is Natalie Reeves. I'm 31 years old. 3 weeks ago, I sat in a conference room on the 14th floor of Whitmore and Associates while my father, the regional director, announced that the senior project lead position I'd spent 4 years working toward was going to my younger brother, Kevin. He stood at the head of the table, adjusted his tie, and said it like he was reading the weather forecast. Kevin will be stepping into the senior project lead role effective Monday. He's ready, and frankly, it's the right choice for the team. I was sitting 6 feet away. I'd trained for that role, built the client portfolio that made it necessary. 14 people in that room heard my father hand my career to my brother and call it the right choice. But what they didn't know was that I'd already filed a formal complaint with corporate HR 2 days earlier. And I wasn't the only one. 6 weeks later, when my father and Kevin were called into a closed-door meeting with the VP of Human Resources and the company's outside counsel, neither of them could look at me. Kevin's hands were shaking so badly he couldn't hold his coffee. Before I tell you what happened in that room, please like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from and what time is it there? I'd love to hear from you. Now, let me take you back to where this really started. Growing up in Richmond, Virginia, I learned early that my family operated on a simple system. Kevin came first, and everything else was negotiable. My family. Dad, Richard Reeves, started at Whitmore and Associates as a junior analyst, worked his way up to regional director over 25 years. Mom, Denise, stayed home until we were in high school, then became Dad's unofficial office manager. Kevin, 2 years younger than me, the son Dad always wanted to mold in his image. And me, the daughter who happened to be good at the same things Dad valued, which somehow made it worse. Kevin got groomed. I got tolerated. When I was 15, I won first place in a statewide business competition. My proposal for a student-run consulting service beat out 400 entries. Dad glanced at the trophy and said, "That's great, Nat." Same month, Kevin made JV soccer. Dad took him to buy new cleats, then spent 3 weekends driving him to tournaments across the state. I told myself Dad just connected more with sports. It wasn't personal. At 22, I graduated summa cum laude from UVA's business school. Full scholarship, 3.94 GPA, 2 published case studies. My parents came to the ceremony but left during the reception. Kevin had a friend's birthday party they'd promised to drive him to. He was 20 years old. He could drive himself. But Mom said, "You understand, honey, Kevin needs us." I got a handshake and a text that said, "Proud of you," with no exclamation point. When I was 26, I asked Dad if there were openings at Whitmore. I'd been working at a smaller firm, building experience, earning promotions on merit. He said he'd see what was available. 2 weeks later, he hired Kevin straight out of college. No experience, no interview process. Into an analyst role 1 level below mine. I had to train him. Dad said, "He's family, help him out, that's what big sisters do." I told myself it was fine. I was good at my job. If I just worked hard enough, the results would speak for themselves. But all of that was just preparation for what came next. Whitmore and Associates had been growing. Our division handled commercial real estate consulting, 12 major clients, $14 million in annual revenue. I managed 4 of those accounts personally, representing $5.2 million. I'd brought in 2 of them myself through cold outreach that took 8 months of relationship building. When the senior project lead position was created, everyone assumed it was mine. My manager, David Chen, told me privately, "Natalie, this role was basically written around your skill set. You've earned this." I prepared a formal proposal, 12 pages, performance metrics, client retention rates, revenue growth projections. I stayed late for 2 weeks refining it. Then Dad called a department meeting. I walked in expecting to see my name on the announcement. Instead, I watched my father stand in front of 14 colleagues and hand the position to Kevin. My brother, who had been at the company for 3 years. Who had lost 2 client accounts in his first 18 months. Who still came to me every week asking how to format project briefs. "Kevin has shown tremendous growth," Dad said. "And I believe in investing in potential." I couldn't breathe. My ears were ringing. I looked around the table. Everyone was staring at their laptops or their hands. Nobody would make eye contact with me. After the meeting, I found Dad in his office. I closed the door. "Dad, that role was supposed to be mine. You know my numbers, you know what I've built." He leaned back in his chair. "Natalie, don't make this personal. Kevin needs this opportunity to grow. You're already solid. You don't need the title." "I don't need the title? I need the recognition. I need the salary. I need to know that 4 years of outperforming everyone on this team actually matters." "It does matter," he said, not looking up from his computer. "But Kevin is your brother. Lifting him up lifts the whole family. You'll get your turn eventually." Eventually. I walked to my car, sat in the parking garage for 30 minutes. My phone buzzed, Mom in the family group chat. "So proud of Kevin's big promotion. Dinner tonight to celebrate. Natalie, can you pick up the cake? Kevin likes the chocolate one from Bellamy's." They wanted me to buy a cake celebrating the job they took from me. I stared at the ceiling of my car and felt something crack open inside me. Not anger exactly, something clearer. For the first time, I saw the pattern for what it was. Not a series of individual disappointments, but a system. A structure designed to keep Kevin elevated and keep me useful. I opened my work email on my phone, scrolled through 4 years of performance reviews. All exceptional. Client satisfaction scores averaging 96%. Revenue contribution totaling $18.7 million over 4 years. 3 company awards for excellence. Kevin's file, which I had access to as his former training supervisor, showed 2 lost accounts, a client complaint, and performance reviews that said, "developing" and "shows potential." He hadn't hit a single quarterly target independently. The evidence was undeniable. And it wasn't just unfair, it was a policy violation. Whitmore and Associates had explicit nepotism guidelines. Supervisory relatives were required to recuse themselves from promotion decisions involving family members. Dad hadn't recused himself. He'd made the decision unilaterally. From that parking garage, I made the simplest decision of my professional life. I was done being quiet. I drafted a formal complaint to corporate HR that night. Detailed everything: the promotion decision, the nepotism policy violation, the performance disparity, the documentation. I attached my reviews, Kevin's reviews, the revenue numbers, the client feedback. Then I hit send. What came next changed everything. The morning after I filed the complaint, I got a call from a woman named Margaret Torres. She was the Senior VP of Human Resources at Whitmore's corporate headquarters in D.C. Not local HR, corporate. "Natalie, I've reviewed your filing," she said. "I want you to know we're taking this very seriously." Margaret Torres was exactly what I needed and nothing like what I expected. She'd been with Whitmore for 18 years. She'd built the company's ethics and compliance division from scratch. She was known internally as the person who didn't play politics. She followed policy, period. "I've pulled the promotion records for your division going back 5 years, she said. "Your father has made 14 promotion decisions. Do you know how many involved employees he has a personal relationship with?" I didn't. 9. 9 out of 14. And in every case, the promoted employee had lower performance metrics than at least one other candidate. The room spun. It wasn't just me. It was a pattern. Dad had been using his position to reward loyalty and personal connection over merit for years. I was just the most visible case because I was family. "There's more," Margaret continued. 2 former employees filed complaints in the past 3 years. Both were settled quietly. No formal action was taken because they left the company before investigations concluded. I'd had no idea. People had tried before me. They'd been pushed out. "Natalie, I need to ask, are you prepared for what a formal investigation means? It will involve your father. It will involve your brother. It could result in disciplinary action, demotion, or termination." I thought about that for a long time. My father, my brother, my family. "I'm prepared," I said, "because if I don't do this, the next person they pass over won't have access to the same documentation I do. They'll just leave, like the others." Margaret was quiet for a moment. "That's exactly the right reason." Over the next 6 weeks, my life split in 2. At work, I kept my head down, did my job, hit my targets, brought in a new account worth $1.8 million annually, my biggest solo win ever. I stayed late perfecting pitch decks, woke early to prep client calls, poured every ounce of frustration into becoming so undeniable that no one could question what happened next. Nobody knew about the investigation except Margaret, the outside counsel she'd retained, and me. I walked past my father's office every morning, said good morning, attended team meetings where Kevin fumbled through project updates I could have managed in my sleep. I never flinched. Not once. At home, things were different. Kevin was riding high on his new title. He posted about it on LinkedIn. Mom shared it on Facebook with 3 paragraphs about how some people are just born leaders. Dad took Kevin to a conference in Chicago, the same conference he'd told me was not worth the travel budget when I'd asked to attend the year before. I said nothing. It wasn't easy. 3 weeks into the investigation, Mom called me on a Sunday morning. "Natalie, Kevin says you've been distant at work. Are you still upset about the promotion?" "I'm focused on my clients, Mom." "Good, because your father made the right call. Kevin needs this more than you do. You're strong enough to handle anything. Kevin is more sensitive." Sensitive. My brother, who spent his lunch breaks watching stock market YouTube videos and taking 2-hour client lunches on the company card, was sensitive. "I have to go, Mom." "Just promise me you'll support your brother. That's what family does." I hung up, stared at my phone. The old me would have promised, would have swallowed it, would have told myself that being the strong one was a compliment, not a cage. The new me opened my email and sent Margaret 3 more documents I'd found. Internal memos where Dad had explicitly asked David Chen to go easy on Kevin's performance reviews. 5 weeks after I filed the complaint, Margaret called again. "We've completed the investigation. I need you in DC on Thursday." "What did you find?" "Natalie, it's significant. I can't share details over the phone, but I want you to know you did the right thing. And it wasn't just your case." I flew to DC on Wednesday night, barely slept. Thursday morning, the corporate office of Whitmore & Associates was nothing like our Richmond branch. Glass and steel, 42nd floor, a view of the Capitol Dome. I wore the charcoal blazer I'd bought for my first client presentation, the one Dad said made me look like I was trying too hard. Margaret met me in the lobby. Beside her was James Whitmore III, the CEO's son and current COO. This had gone higher than I'd imagined. "Natalie, thank you for coming," James said. "What you brought to our attention has led to some important discoveries." They led me to a conference room. Inside, 2 HR representatives, the outside counsel, and a video conference screen showing corporate's legal team. Margaret presented the findings. I sat perfectly still and listened to every word. My father had violated the company's nepotism policy on 14 occasions over 5 years. He'd promoted Kevin without the required recusal, overriding David Chen's documented recommendation, which was me, unanimously supported by 3 other senior managers. He'd pressured 2 managers to inflate Kevin's performance reviews with specific language he'd drafted himself. He'd used company resources to fund Kevin's professional development trips, totaling $23,000, while denying identical requests from higher-performing employees, including me. Total estimated cost to the company from Dad's preferential decisions: $2.3 million in lost productivity, client attrition from underqualified staff, and settlement payments to the 2 former employees who'd filed complaints. Kevin's file showed he'd been given a salary of $112,000 in the senior lead role, $15,000 more than what was budgeted, personally approved by Dad with no oversight. My salary in the role I'd been doing effectively for 2 years without the title? $89,000. $23,000 less than my underqualified younger brother, for doing the same work and more. James Whitmore looked at me across the table. "Natalie, the board has approved the following actions." My father was given the choice between voluntary resignation with a reduced severance package or termination for cause. He chose resignation. 25 years at the company, and he walked out with 60 days' pay and a non-disclosure agreement. Kevin was demoted to his original analyst position, placed on a formal performance improvement plan, and required to repay $8,400 in improperly approved expenses. His senior lead salary was revoked immediately. The senior project lead role was offered to me, effective immediately. With a salary of $118,000, adjusted for the years of inequitable compensation, plus a $15,000 signing bonus as recognition of the revenue I'd generated without proper title or pay. I accepted. When I returned to the Richmond office on Monday, the news had already spread. David Chen was the first person to find me. "Natalie, I owe you an apology. I should have fought harder when your dad overrode my recommendation. I knew it was wrong." "You documented it," I said. "That documentation is what made the case. You did fight, just quietly." He nodded. "For what it's worth, you were always my choice. Everyone on this floor knew." 14 colleagues. Over the next 2 days, 11 of them came to my office individually. Some to congratulate me, some to share their own stories of being passed over, some just to say, "Thank you." Kevin didn't speak to me. He sat at his reassigned desk, the one in the back corner that used to be the intern station, and stared at his screen. When I walked past, he wouldn't look up. Once, I saw him sitting in his car in the parking garage during lunch, just staring forward. The same way I'd sat in my car the night Dad took everything from me. Part of me ached for him. He was my brother. We used to build blanket forts when we were kids. He used to leave candy on my pillow when I had a bad day at school. He hadn't built the system. Dad had. Kevin had just benefited from it without ever questioning why the path was so smooth for him and so steep for everyone else. But compassion doesn't mean accepting injustice, and protecting him from consequences wasn't my job anymore. The fallout at home was immediate. Mom called me 17 times in 3 days. I answered on the 18th. "How could you do this to your father?" Her voice was shaking. "He gave 25 years to that company, 25 years, and you destroyed it." "He violated company policy, Mom, repeatedly, for years." "He was helping Kevin. He was helping family." "He was hurting me. He was hurting other employees. He was hurting the company." "Your brother is humiliated. He can barely show his face at work." "He's still employed. He still has a chance to earn his position legitimately. That's more grace than I was ever given." Silence. "You've changed, Natalie." "I have, and I'm not apologizing for it." She hung up. That was 2 months ago. Today, my life looks different. I sit in the corner office on the 14th floor, the one with the window facing east, where the morning light comes in gold. I manage a team of 8. Our division's revenue is up 12% since I took over. I brought in 2 new clients in my first month as lead, worth $3.1 million combined. Dad hasn't spoken to me since his resignation. I heard through Aunt Linda that he's consulting independently now, working from home. Mom sends me a text every few weeks, short, careful messages. "Hope you're well. Thinking of you." I respond politely, briefly. Kevin is still at Whitmore. He hit his first independent quarterly target last month, David Chen told me quietly. I was glad to hear it. I genuinely hope he builds something real, something that belongs to him, not something handed down because of a last name. We haven't spoken outside of work emails. Some people have asked me if I regret filing that complaint, if I feel guilty about what happened to Dad, if I wish I'd handled it differently. I think about that sometimes, late at night in my apartment, looking out at the Richmond skyline. I think about Dad's face when they told him. I think about Kevin sitting at the intern desk. I think about Mom's voice cracking on the phone, and I feel sad. Not triumphant, not vindicated. Sad that it had to come to this. Sad that a family meeting couldn't fix what a formal investigation had to. But I don't feel guilty. Forgiveness is something I'm still working through. I believe people can change, and I hope my family does. But reconciliation requires honesty, and we're not there yet. Maybe someday. Maybe not. I've made peace with both possibilities. What I know for certain is this. I spent years believing that being the strong one, the quiet one, the one who never complained meant I was being good. Being a good daughter, a good sister, a good employee. But all it really meant was that I was making it easy for people to overlook me. If you're watching this and you've been the one who works twice as hard for half the recognition, the one who trains people who get promoted over you, who's told to wait your turn while someone less qualified takes what you've earned, I want you to hear this clearly. Your silence is not strength. It's a gift to the people who benefit from your invisibility. And you are allowed to stop giving it. You don't need anyone's permission to advocate for yourself. You don't need your family's approval to demand what's fair. You just need the truth and the courage to say it out loud. You deserve that. We all do. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe. Have you ever had to stand up against favoritism in your family or workplace? How did it change things for you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, remember, your worth isn't negotiable, and the right choice was always you.